It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all for today's webinar on reclassification of promoters as per Regulation 31. Thank you all for joining this program, and thanks for joining our journey and encouraging us and motivating us for this knowledge sharing initiative by corporate professionals. Friends, a person classified as promoter carries not only the obligation of extensive disclosure, but also the risk of being liable for the company's non-compliance or malpractices by the other promoters who are in control of the company. Therefore, a promoter who has lost the control of the company would like to exclude from these category as promoter or promoter group and be classified as a public. Even though Regulation 31A of LODR regulation provides the procedure for reclassification from the status of promoter to public, and position has not been simple, and SEBI and Stock Exchange has taken the various efforts, but some efforts are not still clear, and that's why we want to discuss all these issues in this program. Today, we want to discuss the main issues: meaning of promoters, promoters group seeking reclassification, meaning of the term person related to promoters seeking reclassification, condition for reclassification, compliance for reclassification, and disclosure for reclassification, and possible practical example which may be incorporated in the Regulation 31A framework. Friends, as you are aware that today we have invited very eminent speakers, and they are the people from the Stock Exchange, BSE and NSE, and they are doing day and night all these issues, and they are suggesting and advising to the companies what they should do when it is coming for their approval. So today, our eminent speaker is Mr. Ashok Kumar Singh, a Deputy General Manager in Listing Compliance Cell and BSE, and the extensive experience of 14 years in listing, QIP, scheme of arrangement, delisting, etc. He is BSc, LLB, and qualified C and CS. He is also obtained Diploma in Information System Audit from ICAI and postgraduate diploma in Securities Law. I welcome Ashok, and your experience will help us to give the clear direction to the corporate world, which are confused on various aspects of this reclassification. Then we have Mr. Charmi Tarot, is a company secretary and law graduate from profession. She has been associated with NSC since last 7 years and working as a senior manager in listing compliance division in her tenure of 7 years. She has been working with the team who monitors various compliance under LODR regulation, takeover code, insider trading regulation, and various other part of the regulation. I welcome Charmi for this program, and I hope your and Ashok's experience will help us. And I got this information that Charmi is the person who is handling this reclassification from NSC side, and she knows ins and outs. We will definitely get advantage of your extensive knowledge along with Ashok. So welcome both. Then we have Anjali Agarwal. She is a partner in Head Capital Market Corporate Profession, has to her credit 19 years of experience in handling capital market transaction, right issue, buyback, delisting, preferential allotment, and various other allied stock exchange SEBI related matters. So I welcome Anjali and all the three learned speakers. They are expert in this area. Either they are the regulatory side or they are in the professional side. Friends, today you are aware that promoters, being a promoter, you have unlimited liabilities. In Companies Act, if you are a promoter, you are an officer in default, and all the violations, all the things are liable on officers in default. So automatically you comes in this picture. Then come to the SEBI laws. SEBI has a various laws like LODR, we say SAST, then there is a compliance, then other transactions, delisting. So if you see this, that what are the liabilities of the promoter and SEBI regulation? So in case that you do any violation of LODR, your account can be freezed if you are in promoter group on promoter. Trading restriction on promoter during trading window, because as a promoter, if you are trading in that company, you have to follow the concept of insider trading and trading window concept will applicable to you. Obligation of takeover disclosure and insider trading disclosure, you have to do continuously, whether you do transaction, whether you are holding shares or you are holding nothing. So that is also another yearly compliance you have to do. Promoter's background, trading history and detailed information should be disclosed in all public offer like buyback, right issue, if you are promoter. So that is also another thing. If you are not having a control, then your personal detail and all information is in public eyes. In case a promoter of a compulsory delisted company, like companies delisted, then you cannot deal in stock security market for 10 years and your account will freeze. Same thing if you are a promoter of a company or promoter group company and your company shares are suspended and your accounts will be freeze. Promoter qualifies for investigation by SEBI in case of any irregularity observed, because when there is any problem or SEBI or Stock Exchange, they want to know, they will ask your information and investigation, you will be the target for that. Even if you are not doing anything and you're not a part of the management, but you are classified as a promoter. Any regulatory action taken by the company promoter are chargeable for that action. So you can understand that word promoter is good till the time you are in control. But if the word promoter is very bad for you, if you are not in a control, not in you are doing any things with the company, not taking any advantage, not any beneficially interest, but being classified as a promoter, when the issue came, when you have formed the company, you will be promoter. No doubt, the promoter word initially, when the law started, that it means that anybody who is promoter is always promoter. But later on, SEBI came out with so many committees and they have discussed various aspects in various committees. Then they realized that this concept should be rationalized. So we have seen that Kotak committee was there. Then we have seen the various changes. Then the SEBI came out with consultative paper and various amendments they came out. So we have realized, and that is a question, and that is an indication of interest also of today's webinar, that this particular issue is very, it's a very burning issue. There is need of clarity. Some typical questions are there. That there is a one lady who got married. Now she has gone from that family, whether is a promoter or not. There is a husband-wife, and the wife is a promoter because of the relation. Now she got a divorce, whether this is a promoter or not. They have a settlement, and because of settlement, they have now want to change it. There is a dispute going on, two brothers, whether they are the promoter or not. We have seen in the Reliance case also that has happened. So today we will discuss all these issues, and I will request first Ashok to give a presentation on this particular subject, that what is the this reclassification point procedure, how to do it, and then I will request Anjali to give. Then Charmi will cover what are the mistakes companies are doing when they are submitting classification, and then we'll question answer. I'll request all the people, please give your question. We will ask, but my request is, please don't give the detailed factual things, because it will be difficult to speak here and tell, because all the person cannot understand the lengthy questions. That we'll give you separate answer, but all small or short answer we'll give here. Over to you, Ashok. You have to unmute, Ashok.
Thank you, sir. And thanks for setting up the background for the reclassification of promoter. Of course, there is a lot of responsibility and accountability there when you are classified as a promoter. You have covered every regulation wherein there are certain responsibilities are imposed on the promoter, and there are consequences on the promoter and promoter group when something wrong goes, a company, for example, compulsorily delisted. So to classify, once the concept was that once you are a promoter, always a promoter. To reclassify from the promoter to a public or other category if they are not in charge of the affairs of the company. For example, Regulation 5 of LODR also says there are responsibilities on the person who are in charge of the affairs of the company. If they don't do it, then there are issues. So coming back to my presentation, what I try to do is that, to have a platform for healthy discussion, I'll just summarize some of the important provision of regulation. And along with the way, I will be sharing some of the experience that I have along with the Charmi, who will be covering in more detail, I guess. So once this LODR regulation was notified, the two provisions of LODR were made effective with immediate effect. One was related to related party transaction as compared to the then applicable listing agreement. And the second one was related to reclassification of promoters. Because it is been said that SEBI, whatever acts, rules, regulation, everything they are framing, it is for the protection of the interest of the public shareholder of the listed entity. And it was also discussed in various forums that in the process, maybe the importance of the promoter in an organization is somehow was not that much taken care of. Or like this issue of somebody who was earlier promoter, no more associated as a promoter with the company, but still is not able to reclassify himself as a public. So this as a change to help these kind of issues and help the promoters of the listed company, Regulation 31A was made effective with immediate effect from the date of notification. And thereafter, like Pawan sir said, there were various amendment to LODR regulation, Regulation 31A, and last amendment was made last year, which has changed a lot of things, which I will be covering in my subsequent slide. And now the requirement of reclassification of promoter are very eased up in my view. Process is very simple. Only thing is that if different people have different interpretations, so sometimes this kind of issue comes. But these issues are not that much big that it cannot be resolved with a discussion. Mostly we discuss with the companies, we tell them they understand and their applications are processed. So we can move to subsequent slide. Sorry, I'm attending through phone because I'm out somewhere for the meeting, and therefore I have to request my colleague in corporate professional to roll out slides for me. So very quickly, how the process of reclassification is done. The first thing, this is everything is prescribed in the regulation only. The first thing is, and most important thing is that the outgoing person has to make a request to the listed company for reclassification from promoter to public category. Now, a lot of questions are asked. Suppose exemption is given that if you are holding nil shareholder or less than 1% shareholding of the listed company, then there is this exemption is provided from the shareholder approval. Then whether they need to again apply to the company, then company pass a resolution, then apply to the stock exchange, and then only after approval of the stock exchange, this reclassification process is completed, or it is like the exemption is provided and then no application is required. The answer is that regulation has laid down the process, and that process has to be followed. And the process is that outgoing promoter has to make an application to the listed entity. So even if they are holding less than 1%, certain provision of the regulation are exempt, still making application to the listed company for the reclassification is required. Then board has to approve that application passed by the submitted by the outgoing promoter, and thereafter is go to the shareholder. The time gap is 1 month from the board meeting and not exceeding 3 months from the board meeting, so that once that information is there in the market that the person, so someone is going out, within a very limited time frame, the entire exercise is completed. That is the objective behind having these timelines. And then listed company makes an application to stock exchange within 30 days from date of approval of the shareholder. So like I was saying that for seeking reclassification, this is the requirement that the outgoing promoter has to make application to the listed company. Similarly, this is the requirement that the listed entity has to make an application to the stock exchange. Thumb rule is that without approval of the stock exchange in writing, no person belonging to promoter and promoter category can be automatically reclassified to public category, whether it is falling under the exemption category of less than 5%, or person to divorce, or person to, for example, open offer. I will be covering this one in subsequent slide, or pursuant to NCLT order under IBC, or pursuant to scheme of arrangement. But application to stock exchange is must. There is no room available for automatic reclassification that, for example, I got this order, sir, or I have completed my open offer, and in the next rolling pattern, the company will say outgoing promoter is now part of public. That is something which is not provided in the regulation. These steps are mandatory. Some are skipped for some category, but otherwise application to the stock exchange is must. So this is the, because I've seen the questionnaire, so I just wanted to cover some of the answers during the process. So thereafter, there are certain conditions which are obvious condition, like Pawan sir was saying that he is not having control on the affairs of the company. So those has been prescribed in the form of the regulation only, that the outgoing promoter should not holding along with person related to them more than 10%. Now person related to them is a subjective matter, and the clarification has been provided in 31A. Still there are a lot of room for discussion, which I think Anjali and Charmi will be covering in their part. So I'm just skipping that. And of course, somebody saying I'm not a promoter, then they should not be having control over the affairs of the company. They should not have any special right. They should not be part of KMP. I mean, you cannot say that, okay, I was promoter, I will continue to be as MD of the company, but kindly reclassify me as a public, not being a promoter. And then there are certain conditions that he should not be fugitive economic offender, because once somebody has been declared as fugitive economic offender, then simply by saying that now I'm no more part of the promoter, he can simply shift to the public category and escape the whatever action has been initiated. So therefore, these conditions has been prescribed there. Also, what happens then somebody, if you see the very first point, they should not be holding more than 10%. Okay, so they can hold anywhere from 0 to up to 10%. And in the cut-to-cut cases, wherein there is a challenge to meet MPS compliance, 75-25% promoter public holding, the promoter may say that, okay, I am 80%. So few of the promoters category, promoter group, they will say, let me classify as a public and company become MPS compliance. So this route is not available for achieving MPS compliance through reclassification. And also if company is MPS non-compliant, they cannot come up with a reclassification of the promoters. So earlier it was stated in the regulation that reclassification of promoter shall not be used as a means to achieve MPS compliance. But then there was issue, so it has now been changed that if company is in compliance with minimum public shareholding requirement, then only they can come up with the reclassification of promoter. So it's just tweaking of the language. And the company should not be suspended, because like Pawan sir was explaining, being promoter, a lot of responsibilities are imposed on the person. If company is suspended, this is their responsibility to make company fully compliant with the requirement. Again, listed domain company, there are a lot of obligations, because information need to be made available in timely manner to the investors, and therefore this is their responsibility that has been done. So if their company is suspended because of non-availability of so many information under LODR regulation, then they have to first get it revoked if they want to come up with any reclassification application. And now we have seen that under SOP circular, which is altogether a big topic to cover, so many fine penalty provisions are there. A lot of companies have not paid fine and penalties. Their lists are made available on the exchange website. And then one day the promoter will say that, okay, I'm not going to pay the fine and penalty, which eventually goes to IPF, and let me reclassify myself as a public so I can escape all the responsibility. Therefore, this provision has been incorporated, which says that if you have any outstanding fine penalty of the stock exchange, SEBI or depository, then first pay off that, and then only that application can be made. So these are just checks and balances so that company is fully compliant. And the only objective of the person seeking reclassification from promoter to public is that he is actually not associated with the affairs of the company, and otherwise everything is good in the company. You can move to next slide, please. So in the subsequent slide, we have seen the shareholders ordinary resolution is required for our reclassification of promoters. But in the last amendment, which happened last year, I think in May, it was considered that like Pawan sir was saying, somebody is having zero holding.
Ashok, you have to, yeah, okay.
Sorry. So the person is holding zero shareholding, or they are holding less than 1% holding. Still, they have to go through the process of shareholder approval, because shareholder approval is a inherent have this process of sending notice, voting, then declaration of result, and of course a time-consuming process also. Minimum 21 days notice has to be given. So in certain cases, that requirement has been exempted. And that is if the outgoing promoter is holding less than 1%, or it is pursuant to divorce, like husband and wife, there is a divorce, and then they need not to take shareholder approval, but they have to meet the condition which is stated earlier, but shareholder approval will not be required. And with that, they can go ahead with the reclassification. So there are two places in LODR in 31A wherein certain exemptions have been provided. One is under Regulation 3, which covers 1% and divorce, and then Regulation 9 and 10, which covers open offer and schemes. And different set of exemptions have been provided in both the regulations. For example, in Regulation 3, Regulation 3, Roman 3, I guess, the exemption is provided from taking shareholder approval. So all other requirements need to be complied with. For example, outgoing promoter making an application, and approved by the board, and then application being filed with the stock exchange. Only thing is that shareholder approval is skipped. Same is the case with the divorce. Some other set of exemptions are given in the open offer case and scheme case, wherein entire regulation, sub-regulation 3 has been exempted. I think Charmi will be covering that thing in more detail, but these first two cases are attracting different set of exemption, and last two are attracting different other set of exemptions. That one need to be careful in mind what kind of application they are making when they are seeking exemption. Basis on these exemptions which are made available, but sometimes people get mixed up with the requirements. So that is something which has to be taken care of. Next one, please. Now again, Regulation 30 are the premise of, in my understanding, the premise of listed domain is that all material and price sensitive information should be made available to the public within very short span of the time. That is the principle of LODR regulation, Regulation 4. That is the philosophy which is covered under Regulation 30, which is followed by various schedule and the circular that has been issued under Regulation 30, and which has again been embedded in Regulation 31A in the form of Sub-Regulation 8. So the first time, some 10 or 20, whatever number of promoters are there in the company since ages, but that person is making, some of them or one of them is making an application to be reclassified as a public. This is very material information that has been considered, and therefore disclosure requirement has been provided in the LODR regulation and in the form of Regulation 31A itself, Sub-Regulation 8. Otherwise, material events are covered in Regulation 30. But more emphasis is given to these disclosures, and therefore they have separately covered under 31A8, which is so within 24 hours of happening these events, somebody applying to the company for reclassification, that application is approved by the board. The approval is given by the application is filed with the stock exchanges, and the approval is given by the stock exchanges. All these 4 events, they require disclosure to stock exchange within 24 hours of happening of all these events. And idea is same, that somebody till now being shown as a promoter wanted to go out. That is very material information, and therefore it should be made available to public within 24 hours, which is equivalent to Regulation 30, Schedule 3, Part A, that within 24 hours that information has to be given. Next one, please. Can you move slide? Next slide, please. Yeah. So these are just timelines which are part of the regulations. I'll just quickly go through. Within 24 hours, you have to give intimation, and then board meeting need to be convened and the approval to be taken, shareholder approval taken within 1 month to 3 months. So these are just timeline which has been provided in the regulations. I think I have covered earlier, so I'll skip this slide, because this is combination of shareholders approval and disclosure requirement. And we can move to next slide, please. Now, once somebody has met all the requirement and they have been reclassified as promoter, it should not happen that they become non-compliant to some of the conditions basis on which they were reclassified as promoter. So they are grouped in two parts. The first bullet point covers those conditions. If you become non-compliant with them, immediately you will be reclassified as promoter. The other part is covering those conditions which you can have, but there is cooling off period of 3 years. For example, this you cannot be on the board, you cannot be on the CAM. I'm so sorry. So for 3 years, the cooling off period is there, and therefore these positions can be taken. So this is provided in the regulation. So not at the time of seeking reclassification, but thereafter also, people have to ensure that they are in compliance with these requirements. I can move to next slide, please. So here I have just tried to cover out what are the important things which I want to convey, and what are the common issues that companies have faced when they file their reclassification application. Both stock exchanges, BSE and NSE, they have their online portal. No physical filing is entertained. Everything has to be filed on the online portal of the stock exchange. We, in order to help listed company, we have our checklist, which is available on the exchange website. And both BSE and NSE have jointly decided on this checklist. So there is no arbitrage, no kind of disparity of the documents which are required by the BSE may not be required by NSE, or may be required by NSE, may not be required by BSE. So that thing we have sorted out. We are in almost every cases, I can say that we are working together, and we have in this case also, we have standardized our checklist, which is across the exchanges. So documents are same, so that to help to the listed company to complete their documentation. Then again, regulation says that both the exchanges have to give approval in the coordinated manner. So once we are ready with our approval, we communicate to other exchange communicates to us. If we are facing any issue, we share with the NSE and other exchanges. And if they are facing any issue, they share with us, so that we both are satisfied with the submission, and the unique cases are exceptional cases. And then once both are agreeing, then only we give approval to the cases. So this is happening in coordinated manner. It is provided in the regulation only that somebody belonging to public category, if they want to be reclassified as promoter, they have to give open offer. Now, there are certain issues which I will very quickly cover, I guess, very much in time. That what issues we say now, people have said that there are delay in processing application. My experience is that they say that the NBSE and or maybe Chanmi can share. Sometimes they say that other exchange and are. So in common way, in a stock exchanges, there are delay in processing their application. Let me in this forum share the basic reasons for delay. Like I was saying, checklists are standardized across the exchanges. It is available on the exchange website. For example, one example is that regulations say that if outgoing promoter, you should not hold ABCD. Like you should not hold more than 10%. You should not hold any managerial position. And it is also stated in the regulation only that while making application to the company, seeking reclassification, which is subsequently approved by the board, the outgoing promoter shall confirm that they are not having any disqualification which are there in the regulation. So that affirmation they have to give to the company. What we did, we have also standardized a format in which the outgoing promoter has to give that confirmation. Sometimes that is not given. I mean, the application, even though the standard checklist made available, is not submitted in the same format, uploaded in the system in the same format, and then the query are raised, then the company take time to reply, and the overall basis somebody sees that, oh, my application is pending for so many days. That is, in my view, one of the reasons. There is delay in reply to exchange queries. Very important point. There are certain exemption which has been provided if the reclassification of the promoter is pursuant to open offer. But the fact is that in the open offer document, the offer document, they should be specifically mentioned that after this exercise being complete, this open offer is being complete, this outgoing, the selling promoter will be reclassified as public. If that is not mentioned in the open offer document, that exemption is not available. I'm sorry for that. Then they will do entire exercise of taking shareholder approval and everything which is prescribed for normal reclassification. And this is why, because of one small issue, one small mistake of not mentioning in the offer document that the outgoing, the selling shareholder, selling promoter, after open offer is complete, will be reclassified as public. And one of the very common issue that we have seen, that the disclosure requirement has not been complied with. Within 24 hours of receipt of the application, stock exchange cap system is working 24 hours, but still that corporate announcement is not given. Similarly, board approval, similarly a filing application, and so that is another challenge, and then we have to resolve that issue. And then sometime it has happened that they're not adhering to the timeline between the board meeting and the shareholder meeting, filing of application by the outgoing promoter and consideration of that application by the board of directors. And sometimes similarly, like in the letter of offer, the person is going to be reclassified as a public is not mentioned in the approved resolution plan. And it is obvious the somebody had taken over the affairs of the company, then the person who was in charge will be reclassified as public. But that fact has not been mentioned in the resolution plan. Then it will become difficult to, to process those applications. Next one, please. You have to press again, I guess. Thank you. So this was just a quick review of the application of the reclassification provisions, along with some of the experience that we have gained during processing these application. And I guess it will be covering a lot of questions, but still there may be many questions.
Okay, Ashok.
Sir.
Because you have to leave, so I'm just asking.
Yes, sir.
What are the common problem you are finding? I have, if I can classify it, there are two types of problem. One is majority problem is that they want to out from the promoter group.
Correct.
Some question people are asking if they want to in the as a promoter, that is there that you have to give offer.
Correct.
But if you are taking out yourself from the promoter group and they have multiple issues, if I can summarize that somebody has what is the status? Though I know the point, but for the public, I'm asking. I have no shares, and I'm because of some reason I'm the promoter.
Correct.
So my promoter is because I'm related to the promoter, or I was a promoter earlier, but now I have sold the share and I have 0 shares.
Correct, sir.
And various other types of cases which you are receiving. So in your opinion, what is the major issue which people are facing when they coming for the reclassification? Not what types of the people are coming to you, which has majority number.
Major issue, sir, in cases where they are not, for example, holding any shares, but still they wanted to, and they wanted to be classified as public. Then the person who is in charge, we have seen in many cases, they are not supporting. I mean, in our regulation, it is very clearly mentioned that for reclassification, application has to be moved to the stock exchanges. And then the person who is handling the affair of the company is not supporting the person who is willing to go out, though he may be in compliance with all the requirement of a regulation, but application is not being moved. So that issue, because there is a fight, for example, there's fight between the promoters, there's fight between the brothers, and then the person who is in charge is not helping out them, to go out. In those cases, what happens are the regulation is not giving us any liberty and to go ahead with the one side of the story only.
Okay.
So that is one of the issue we have seen. Second, again, somebody having zero, for example, zero shareholding is commonly asked question. Zero shareholding. I'm holding zero shareholding. I'm not the director. I'm not taking any executive decision in the company. Why I am still the promoter? That is correct. And therefore, this amendment has been made. And sir, we have to see that amendment has been made and the less than 1% the shareholder approval is exempted. But it is not stated that for zero holding, the automatic exemption is given. So it is well thought exercise that has happened in SEBI and this thing. And thereafter, these things have come. Now, if the requirement still remains that if you are holding less than 1%, then you have to give application to the board. Board has to approve and then file an application because shareholder approval is exempt. That process has to be completed. But if there are rifts between the promoter and promoter group, then they face challenges and then they come to us saying that we are holding only 0%. We are not holding any share. We are holding nil. But still we are stuck with the promoter and everybody is now, worried if they are not involved with the affairs of the company. They don't want to be shown and continue as a promoter, which is obvious also. They should be classified as soon as possible. So these are the issues basically we are seeing people are facing.
Okay, got it. So Ashok, thank you very much. I request if you are free, you can join again us.
Yes, sir. I told that time also, sir, that this is kind of session I want to be there till end. But still, I mean, you have seen interruption in between. People are following because I have to go there. There are some important matters that are going to be discussed.
Okay, in case the matter is over, please come back. We will be happy to. Yeah,
100%, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashok. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, now because Ashok has given you the background from this, so the regulator side, that what are the things, how the application is coming. But to understand this concept of reclassification, I'll request Anjali to give a presentation and tell us the issues and some case studies, and then we'll go to Charlie. Anjali, please.
Hello.
Yes.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. Thank you, Ashok. Thank you, sir, for giving the brief of the reclassification and the problems being faced by the company and the legal procedure that they have to follow to comply with to be able to be reclassified in a seamless manner. So now the question that arises is as to why reclassification, or why, when a company has been promoted by 2 or 3 people together, why at a later stage there arises a situation that they need to be reclassified. So some of the questions that people generally ask us as well as to what is a reclassification, or the concept that once a promoter, always a promoter. Is this a true concept? Does this hold throughout the life of the company? There are certain situations wherein, like this is a very, very, very live example. A company wants to come out with an IPO, but my company's name was appearing as the promoter group of a compulsorily delisted company. Now, do I become ineligible for the purpose of an IPO? Who all can be reclassified from promoter to public or public to promoter? Then another question is, many of the people do not even know that their names are appearing as promoter or promoter group in a listed company. Then what should those persons do? And are they eligible to be reclassified? So these are some of the broad things which we in our daily professional life deal with these questions. That is why the concept of this particular topic for the webinar came up. So what exactly is reclassification? Reclassification in the most simplest terms is categorization of a person from promoter or promoter group to public or vice versa in a listed company. It cannot happen by just giving a letter. There is a proper process which Ashok has explained very well, which is needed to be complied. As Pawan sir said in his opening remarks, that there are n number of obligations attached to a promoter or a promoter group. Being the promoter or promoter group person, we have to make extensive disclosures, be it in terms of takeover regulations, be it in terms of insider trading regulations, or even under the listing regulations. Then simultaneously, if I am not if I'm not the decision maker in a company, but still my name is appearing as a promoter or promoter group, I'll still be held liable for any of the non-compliances or malpractices by the actual people who are the actual decision makers, by the real promoters of the company. In case the company gets suspended because of any of the non-compliance or non-payment of listing fee, the demat accounts of the promoters get frozen. And another very big problem, which is acting as a big hurdle these days, is if a company is compulsorily delisted, all the promoters, promoter group, and companies promoted by any of these people become ineligible to access capital markets for a period of 10 years. So that these things act as a big hurdle when we talk about the obligations of a promoter and promoter group. And that is where the correct categorization of a person, whether the person really belongs to the promoter group, promoter category, or promoter group category, or person acting in concert. So these are needed to be defined very correctly. Now, Vivek, next slide, please. Now, the journey of reclassification. So, up till 2015, that is promulgation of listing regulations, there was no provision regarding reclassification. The companies merely used to obtain a written request from the person who wanted to go out, keep it in their, place it before their board meeting, and just take a decision by way of a board resolution. There are not even many cases wherein such intimations were given to the stock exchanges under the listing agreement, under the erstwhile listing agreement. Until 2015, there was no provision with regard to reclassification. In the year 2014, for the first time, SEBI came up with a discussion paper wherein the concept of reclassification was introduced. The same were from replicated in the listing regulations when they were promulgated in 2015. Then, upon the Kotak Committee recommendation in the year 2018, SEBI again came out with another consultation paper, on the basis of which in 2018, certain amendments were brought in the Regulation 31A. Then another consultation paper in 2020, and thereupon the present law which is there came up in the year 2021. Now, essence of reclassification. When we talk about the discussion paper, when we talk about why 31A was brought in, what was the reason? Listing agreement also people were doing fine, but what was the reason for bringing in 31A? So SEBI also observed that the companies were incorporated, or the companies came out with IPOs way back in 35 years back by two friends or two family members, and now both of them are carrying the burden of being the promoter and promoter group, but either of them, maybe one of them, is least interested in the company presently, so there should be a situation for reclassification. Then likewise, as Pawan sir also said, that the daughter got married or any of the children got married, and then how this person can be reclassified. Then there may arise a situation wherein promoters form the company, they came out with an IPO, but now they are not interested in the company either because of age or because of other businesses, and they do not want to continue. So what can be the scenario? There do happen family disputes, there happen legal separations. Then how to handle those situations, how to handle one person from the company and the other person from my company. Those situations arise. And these are the basic situations which force the regulator to think about the concept of reclassification and bring in these regulations. till now, whatever slides have covered, all these revolve around promoter or promoter group. And that is where the problem is arising, reclassification is arising from, that how a person has been included in the category of promoter or promoter group. It's very difficult to imagine that I'm not even aware that my name is appearing in the promoter or promoter group. But these problems primarily are there in the company which came out with IPOs about 25-30 years back. In the new age company, in the new listings, companies, promoters define the promoter and promoter group in a very thoughtful manner. And generally, these situations may not arise in the new listings, but in the older days, this situation is there because the definition of promoter and promoter group has evolved over time. Under the Companies Act, under the 1956 Act, there was no provision with regard to any promoter. There was no concept of promoters. In the Companies Act 2013, for the first time, the definition of promoter came, which defined a promoter meant a person named as promoter in the prospectus or in the annual reports of the company who controls the company directly or indirectly, whether as a shareholder, director, or otherwise. So directly or indirectly is not defined anywhere. It has very wide connotations, even covering shareholders, directors, or otherwise. And then a person who advises or gives directions or instructions to the company's board of directors. These people have been defined under the Companies Act as a promoter. So promoter, the first definition of promoter goes way back to 1997. That is the takeover regulations. Under the erstwhile DIP guidelines, there was no definition of promoter as such. Takeover regulation 1997 defines promoter as a person who controls the company or a person who has been named as a promoter in the offer document. So a company which came out with the IPO during that time had to comply with this definition. Simultaneously, the definition of promoter group, which was there under FAST 97, was needed to be looked into. And accordingly, the promoter and promoter group were different. Now, this definition went in a change in the year 2002, wherein, along with the word control, the word directly or indirectly was also added. Again, as I said earlier, directly and indirectly is not defined anywhere, has a very, very wide connotation. Simultaneously, it was also inserted that if the promoter is an individual, any relative of his would also be included in the definition of promoter. Any firm or company controlled by this promoter or relative would also be a promoter. Any firm or HUF in which the promoter or relative is a partner would also be a promoter. And in case the promoter is a body corporate, any holding company or subsidiary company of it, or any firm or company controlled by these entities would also be forming part of the promoter. So we can understand that over these years, the definition got widened to quite an extent. Whereas in 1997, it was merely the person who exercised control. And now these many other categories were also incorporated. So meaning thereby, if I incorporated a company, at the time of IPO, I was the promoter. My brother automatically, by virtue of him being a relative of me, would be a part of the promoter, and he had to be included in the promoter definition in the shareholding patterns. In the year 2004, again this definition was amended, and a very big change that was promulgated was person named as person acting in concert with the promoter. Person acting in concert is a very, very wide definition, which is with anybody acting with a common intent or common objective. So even a friend of mine wherein we have a common object of growing our company becomes a person acting in concert, and even his name became a part of the shareholding pattern and became a part of the promoter in the shareholding pattern. And then there were certain other amendments which were there, spouse, brothers, relatives instead of relatives under company that they made it spouse, parent, brother, sister. Earlier it was, there was no holding limitation. Now it was capped to 26%. These amendments also came. Now, with the promulgation of ICDR Regulations 2009, the definition of promoter shifted from SAS regulations to ICDR regulations. SAS, CIT, all other these regulations borrow the definition as given in ICDR regulations. So, promoter now has been defined as a person who controls the company. A new point was inserted: any person who is instrumental in formulation of a plan. This again is very difficult to be defined, but then in my shareholding pattern, a new name got added: the person who is instrumental in formulation of a plan, and the person named in as a promoter in the offer document continues. In the year 2018, again, because by the year 2018, the Companies Act was in place, Companies Act 2013 was in place. So accordingly, along with the offer document, in the annual report was also inserted. Anybody who has been shown in the annual report as a promoter would be a promoter here as well. Anybody who controls the company directly or indirectly, this time they deleted the line formulation of plan, and a person who advises or gives directions or instructions to the company's board was added. And this is the present definition which continues even till now. Till now we talked about the definition of promoter. Now the situation becomes entirely different when we talk about a promoter group. Companies Act either 56 or 2013 is silent about the promoter group definition. Under the takeover regulations, promoter group was defined as where the promoter is a body corporate, any holding or subsidiary company thereof, any company in which it holds more than 10% of the holding, any company in which a group of individuals hold 20% of the capital. Then in case the promoter is an individual, spouse, parent, brother, sister, child, all these of the person or of the spouse, meaning thereby my wife's brother would also be a promoter group. So he also got included in the shareholding pattern. And a company in which the promoter or his relative hold more than 10%, or likewise any HUF wherein the promoter or his immediate relative hold more than 10%. Then ICDR regulation, with the promulgation of ICDR regulations, the definition got changed again. As per the ICDR, promoter group includes the promoter. Promoter is already a part of the promoter group. His immediate relatives are a part of the promoter group. And likewise, any holding subsidiary company, any body corporate in which this person holds more than 10%, any body corporate in which a group of individuals or companies hold more than 20%, these categories are incorporated. In the year 2008, as per ICDR 2018, apart from the other changes, like in the earlier one, it was 10%. Now, 2018, this limit was increased to 20%. So anybody wherein I'm holding 20% would be a part of my promoter group. One important insertion which was made in the ICDR Regulations 2018: persons whose shareholding is aggregated under the head shareholding of the promoter group. So anybody whom we have shown as the person belonging to the promoter group is the promoter group for all practical purposes. Now we have seen what a promoter is, what a promoter group is. Now if I promoted the company and my brother says that I want to be reclassified, can we be really reclassified? There are certain categories of people for whom it has been said that they cannot be reclassified. Vivek, please change the slide. Yeah. So promoter or promoter group seeking reclassification. So these categories, Regulation 31A very clearly says cannot be reclassified, the immediate relative of the promoter. In case it's a body corporate, a holding or subsidiary, a body corporate in which the promoter holds 20% or more, or vice versa. And in case of individuals, body corporates where the promoter or its relatives or their firms or HUF own 20% or more, or where the body corporate owns 20% or more, these entities or these uh, firms or companies cannot be legal. Now, reclassification, although the procedure has been explained by Ashok in quite a length, so board approval is required. This I've tried to make a comparative as well, that as to 2015, 2018, and 2021, what are the regulations. So board approval is needed to be obtained. As per the present law, it is needed to be once the company receives a request, either within either at the next board meeting or within 3 months, whichever earlier the request is to be placed. The shareholders' approval is to be taken by way of an ordinary resolution. However, one thing which has been incorporated is that the person's outgoing promoter and his relatives and the persons related to it should not be voting on the resolution. An application to the stock exchange is needed to be made. The disclosures, as explained by Ashok, I will not be taking up these disclosures. He has explained them. These are needed to be made to the exchanges. So, certain eligible cases, a public shareholder wanting to be reclassified as promoter has to make an open offer, and Ashok very clearly informed us that anybody who wants to be reclassified by way of an open offer, in the offer document, it should be mentioned clearly that the old promoters will be reclassified into public category. A listed entity shall be considered as listed entity with no promoters if due to reclassification, the entity does not have any promoters. There are certain conditions for reclassification which have been mandated, that the outgoing promoter should be holding less than 10%. He should not be controlling the listed company either directly or indirectly. He should not be having any special rights, shall not be a director of the company, shall not be a PMP of the company, should not be a willful defaulter, or should not be a fugitive economic offender. Then, with regard to the company per se, there are certain conditions which even the company has to comply with. Minimum company has to be in compliance with minimum public shareholding norms. A company wherein promoter holding is more than 75% cannot proceed with reclassification. The company should not be suspended at the exchanges. Plus, there should not be any outstanding dues to SEBI or to stock exchanges or to deposits. This procedure again has been defined. I'll be skipping this slide because Ashok has taken it up. Shareholders approval, there are certain exceptions which have been given in the regulations. So holding, where the holding of the promoter seeking reclassification and persons related to the such promoter is less than 1%, a shareholder's approval is not required. And likewise, in case of reclassification pursuant to a divorce, a shareholder's approval is not required. In case of transmission, succession, inheritance, and gift, the recipient of the shares shall be classified as promoter or promoter group, whatever category the person was in. Then, subsequent to the reclassification of status as subsequent reclassification of status as public may be done subject to compliance of the conditions as mandated in 31A. In case of death of a promoter or promoter group, that person will automatically cease to be included as name. Obviously, a person who's no more in existence, his name cannot be there in the shareholding pattern. There are certain exemptions which have been provided, that if a reclassification is pursuant to a resolution plan, then the provisions are not needed to be complied with. If it is pursuant to an order of a regulator, or if it is pursuant to a scheme of arrangement, or if it is pursuant to a takeover open offer, then these are some exemption cases which have been mandated in the regulations only, which have been allowed in the regulation only. Then another thing which has been mentioned is listed entity with no promoters. If after reclassification, the entity does not have any promoter, then the same shall be considered as listed entity with no promoters. This I would want to understand more from the exchange, as more from Charmi, as to what exactly does it mean. So when we talk about no promoters, there are approximately 180 companies presently who have no promoters. Few of the older names, the older groups, Larsen and Toubro, ITC, Care Ratings, Ready and some of the new listed companies we all know, Zomato, Paytm, Delivery, Cartrade, all these companies do not have any promoters. They are all professionally managed. If anybody wants to be, till now we had discussed reclassification from promoter to public. But if somebody from the public wants to be reclassified as a promoter, the only solution available to him is to come out with an open offer under the takeover regulation. There is no other way out. So on the basis these how the law has evolved and how the person have been brought in the definitions of promoter and promoter group, certain case studies that were coming to our mind while preparing this presentation or while dealing with various companies. So Mr. Sachin Tendulkar was the promoter of XYZ Limited. As per his will, his nephew Rohit Sharma to acquire certain shares and become the promoter of XYZ Limited. There are several other persons as well whose names are presently mentioned as the promoter and promoter group, who consist of cousins of Mr. Rohit Sharma and some unrelated persons. So can the cousins of Mr. Rohit Sharma be reclassified from promoter and promoter group to the public? This is one question, one case study that we have. Then the second case, Karthik and Kabir are two brothers who, along with their family members, are promoted ABC Limited and XYZ Limited and are separating their businesses through a scheme of arrangement. Pursuant to the scheme, Karthik and his family members will exit from ABC and simultaneously Kabir and his family will exit from XYZ and would be reclassified into the public. What procedure to be followed in such cases for reclassification?
Anjali, will you not answer? Anjali, will you not answer one and two questions?
Okay, I can answer. So for the first question, Vivek, for the first question, so when Rohit Sharma became the promoter and others were the unrelated persons or cousins of Rohit Sharma who were falling within the ambit merely because they were the cousins. So, and their holding was also not much. It was less than the 10% threshold. So those persons can be reclassified from promoter and promoter group to the public category. Those persons can be reclassified. Now, coming to the second case, if you recall during my presentation, I said that pursuant to a scheme of arrangement, reclassification is an exempted category. So when these brothers are taking an exit from each other's companies, pursuant to the scheme of arrangement, this should be allowed as a reclassification case. And in case these people want to file an application with the exchanges, like the application will sail through. Now, this is the third case. BKC Limited was promoted by three brothers, Mr. Sunny, Bobby, and Abhay, and all three, along with their family members, are shown as promoters in the shareholding pattern. Currently, Mr. Bobby, along with his family members, do not hold any shares in the company and does not have any control over the affairs of the company and wants to seek reclassification. Is it possible to seek reclassification? So here, the definition of promoter group for the person seeking reclassification acts as a hurdle, wherein a person, immediate relative of the promoter, cannot be reclassified. Probably, if some sort of an agreement is there between them, then the reclassification process may become little seamless. But otherwise, presently, being brothers, or maybe Charmi can guide us better on this particular query, that being real brothers or reclassification of real brothers and sisters. How is exchange understanding this concept? Then Mr. Virat and Ms. Anushka are husband and wife. They, along with their sons, form part of promoter group of ABC. Virat and Anushka, I should not have used these names, I'm sorry. Virat and Anushka are divorced and Anushka seeks to be reclassified into public. However, their son forms part of the promoter and promoter group of ABC Limited. Will the reclassification be approved? Again, divorce case has been clearly exempted under 31A, and divorce is something which has happened pursuant to a law. There should not be any problem in approval of this case from the exchanges. This should also fail through. So these are the provisions with regard to promoter or promoter group or reclassification. And over to you, Pawan sir. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Anjali. Thank you for giving this detailed things. Last question I don't like. Okay, because anyway.
Even I did not like him. I mean, after by giving the presentation, I was feeling more bad.
Okay, Charmi, now over to you, because the Ashok has said, then Anjali has given you the other part. Now you as a exchange, what types of issues which you are thinking, you are receiving and queries and points, then we'll go for question answer.
Sure, sir. Thank you. So thank you, Anjali and Ashok sir and everybody. So as such, the major procedure and the regulations have been covered by Mr. Ashok sir and Anjali. I will just majorly talk about what I have major queries that I have received during the few years that I have been working, and issues that I have faced on a specific point in the regulation. So here, considering reclassification, it is very important to understand the two terms that have been covered in this regulation 31A of LODR. That is the person who is seeking reclassification and the persons related to the person seeking reclassification. So here, many a time it has been observed that the companies understand that if an entity who is falling in the promoter group of the company wants to seek reclassification, shall not form part of the term promoter seeking reclassification just by the word promoter being used. So here I would like to clarify that the regulations clearly have defined the term promoter seeking reclassification. So here any entity, whether a promoter or a promoter group who wants to seek a reclassification approval would be termed as the promoter seeking reclassification. And coming down to the term promoter seeking reclassification and the persons related to promoter seeking reclassification, here there are many conditions that have been there for preconditions, as in you can say for reclassifications, wherein the promoter, outgoing promoter, the person who is seeking reclassification, and the person related to the promoter seeking reclassification together need to comply with the conditions. Only then the reclassification as such can be allowed. So here, understanding the term person related to promoter seeking reclassification, the clear definition is given that we need to refer the term promoter group, which has been defined in the ICDR regulations of SEBI. So what happens is, like, if I, as a promoter of a company, wants to get reclassified, not just the holdings that I am having in the company, or not just the position or the control that I am having in the company needs to be understood. Along with me, the holdings and the positions of the relatives, of my relatives, have to be also understood. So here I have one of the examples that can be taken into consideration. So if you have a company called company maybe ABC Limited, wherein there are two promoters, Mr. A and Mr. B. If there are more relatives of Mr. A, that is Miss C or Miss D, and relatives of Mr. B, that is Miss E, in that case, if Miss C and Miss D, who are relatives of the promoters of Mr. A, wants to get reclassified, here this Miss C and Miss D would be termed as the persons who are seeking reclassification, though these entities are falling in the promoter group of the company, that is the they would be termed as the promoter seeking reclassification. And Mr. A, who is the promoter of the company and not seeking reclassification, since Mr. A is related to Ms. C and Ms. D, would be termed as the person related to the promoter seeking reclassification. And while calculating the limit of 10% as described in the preconditions of reclassifications, the entire shareholding of Mr. A, Ms. C, and Ms. D will be considered together, and the total has to be seen whether they are crossing the limit of 10% or not. And apart from that, any other condition that has been prescribed in that regulation has to be taken together, considering the positions of all the three together. One more thing is, in case if Mr. A and Mr. B, who are the two brothers and the promoters of the company, out of which if Mr. A wants to get reclassified, again here, the holdings of Mr. B and the other positions of Mr. B will have to be taken into consideration, as Mr. B, being the brother of Mr. A, will become the person related to the promoter seeking reclassification, and accordingly the conditions have to be decided. So this is really very important to understand the two terms, that is person seeking the promoter seeking reclassification, and the promoter related to the person related to the promoter seeking reclassifications. Here actually we have observed many cases that have come to us wherein the persons related to the promoter seeking reclassification are holding more than 10% or are the part of board of directors of the company, which has resulted into the conditions not being met. Because the conditions clearly state that the person seeking reclassification and the person related to the promoter seeking reclassification together should not have breached the conditions that have been prescribed. So in such cases, there have been instances that either the exchange has rejected the applications or the companies were required to withdraw the applications because there was no place in which the applications would have been, the reclassification applications would have been approved. The main concern here with respect to outgoing promoter is that they should not be permitted to exercise control over the listed entity, whether directly or indirectly, and seize the promotership in the company in case they are having this indirect or direct control. That's the reason this specific condition has been inbuilt in the regulations. So while making the applications, the companies need to be very clear on this: who is the promoter seeking reclassification, who is the promoter related to the promoter seeking reclassifications, in order to enable us to process the applications also faster in an easier manner. So they're considering this also and the other conditions that have been talked about by Ashokji and Anjali in the past with respect to disclosures that the companies had to make, the applications, the checklist, the documents that the companies had to require to make in the applications that they submit to the exchange. It has been observed that companies have made quite a lot of issues while making those documentations to the exchange, and which has resulted as in a delay in making towards processing the application, or in case in many instances even we have observed the disclosures were made with a delay. The disclosures talked about in regulation 31A8, wherein some announcements have to be given by the company within 24 hours. So such delays are resulting into some letters being issued to the companies. So as such, we issue some warning letters or advisory letters to the companies wherein we observe such kind of issues or non-compliances. Recently also we had observed one case wherein the company had made the disclosure with respect to the entities who were related to the promoter who is seeking reclassification. Asking the company multiple times as in why was a particular entity falling in the promoter and promoter group having a substantial holding in the company not being considered as a related entity. The company did not provide sufficient documents and always claimed that the said entity is not related to the outgoing promoter. On detailed investigation and analysis by the exchange, it was understood that the outgoing promoter had some holdings in those particular company, and that company was forming part of the promoter group as by virtue of that holdings, and which resulted that the outgoing promoter had some relation with this company, and the holding of this company also as such was to be included in the total holding of the outgoing promoter, as the regulation states, the outgoing promoter and the person related to outgoing promoter should not hold more than 10%. So here this 10% limit was breached after adding the holding of that particular corporate in the body corporate in the promoter group of the company, which resulted there was some incorrect disclosures in the application as such. So the exchange had ended up issuing some advisory and warning letter to the company in such scenarios also. So this is really very important to understand the two terms and make accordingly process the applications as such. So this is a brief I wanted to add it apart from what already has been covered by friends Anjali and Ashokji.
Okay. So thank you, thank you for giving the insight of what people are facing. Okay. Now I have received various questions. Okay. And then this question. Charlie, what is in case of promoter brothers, then reclassification will never happen because the other brother would continue to hold more than 10%. Because the example you have given, joining this. So suppose one person is holding 2% and one person holding an 11%, and 11% person is ready to continue. So 2% person will not go out. Can such outgoing promoter make an application to the SEBI seeking exemption?
So ideally, truly speaking, the regulation will not allow that because there is a particular limit of 10% as such. But in case the company has approached SEBI and in case there is some exemption, in that case, the application can be processed, or if in case there is some document which proves the separation between the two brothers, which is a legally supported and document as such, which clearly supports the demarcation or differentiation between the two brothers. In that case, the application might be processed looking at the facts of the case.
Okay. So now I have various questions, and interestingly, we have received more than 30 questions just now. Okay. And previously also we got a question. So I will, we have a sufficient time so we can give reply. I will take up this question. So Anjali or Chandni, anybody can give answer. So I'll address to Chandni first, and then Anjali want to add something. Chandni, what reclassification of promoter of public shareholding of promoter in promoter group will be downline to minimum shareholding that is less than 51%? In that case, they lose the control of the company. In that case, any option available with the promoter?
So in case if the control is beyond 51%, because the word control is also used in the regulation. But in that case, the other condition of 10% also has to be taken into consideration. So if all that has been understood, in that case, I think reclassification, if all the conditions are considered together, I think reclassification then only can be done.
Okay, one suggestion, Chandni, why? Because I am seeing the questions. And various people are coming to us as advice. Why can't SEBI bring out, because this concept is very old, and there are, if you have seen the Anjali's presentation, ICDR, SAST, Companies Act, every time they have changed, and they have not changed small, they have changed big things. Sometimes they have reduced the limit, sometimes they have added something. Why can't we exchange suggest, or we are getting this view that SEBI should come out one scheme where they can reclassification. Once they give opportunity, you can give a SOP on the basis of advice of both the stock exchange, and SEBI come out with some scheme, and by filing various paper in once for all, you can ask all the promoter that you can reclassify if you justify following points.
So you're talking about a one-time window as such.
Yeah, some settlement, some scheme, SEBI can come out, which they are coming out and so many times in SAST and other issues also. This is one suggestion which you can also sound to the top management of it.
So we can do the thing here is, if we get if you can share some note or a detailed presentation on this, we can definitely take it up with SEBI for discussion as such.
Okay. And one suggestion also received by some participant. So they are saying the stock exchange are asking queries in piecemeal basis. Why can't they ask in one go, or why can't we they ask as on a SOP base, so the public can the applicant give all answer in one go.
So what we have done is here, we have put up a checklist on our website. So which eases for the companies as in what documentations are required by the exchange. But as our friend Ashok ji also had said, that the documentation that we receive is not complete in nature many other times. And many a times what is actually expected is not given in the documents that we receive. And which results into we raising certain questions and queries to the companies. And these queries are made in the nature as soon as we receive some clarifications, we understand the facts of the case in more detail. Post that we have actually processed the application correctly, and after raising some queries and getting the true picture of the application as such, the true scenario. So this results into the queries that we raise. Definitely, we do not want to take more time on processing the applications, and we'll definitely try on putting all the queries in one go and instead of putting it on a piecemeal basis as such.
Okay. Now there is a very interesting legal point. There is two things. One is you are holding shares and you are holding control, and both are different. If you are holding shares, then you are in control. That is a presumption. But sometimes you are not holding shares. Even then, you can be in control of the company, and you will be identified as a promoter or whatever word we can use it. Now, today, if you see the scenario which Anjali has shown, that new age companies are coming and various new companies are coming where promoter is holding nil share, or there's no promoter, or the promoter is holding very less, who is managing director of the company. Remaining people are holding more than 90-95% shares. Now, in that case, the control is managed by the person who is having a 2%. But these P fund and other people, they are having indirect control of the company, but they are always out of the promoter's definition. So any view on this, which is happening, a few age companies are coming and various people are following this route?
So here what happens is the PE investors that put in as investors in the companies that are coming in. So these are basically the investors in the company, and as such do not want to get involved in the day-to-day affairs of the companies as such. So this results more of the times that these entities are not getting classified as the promoters of the companies or such or something like that. But then again, this depends upon between the companies, the entities who are promoting the companies and such investors, whom to be classified as a promoter. Because the term control and the term promoter both are wide-handed and being defined to some extent in the regulations, but are real wide-handed terms as such.
Okay. Anjali, you have any view?
So the definition of promoter group, and somebody who's not falling within the ambit of promoter and promoter group are given in the law. So any of the PE investors, even if they're holding say 10% stake in the company, but on the basis of these definitions, they fall outside the purview of promoter group, and that is why they are not being shown in the promoter's definition in the offer documents in the process.
Okay. Now, some questions which people are saying that there are two. I have received various questions, but I'm summarizing. Like they are the promoter, but there is a settlement has taken place, formal settlement, that now we are three brothers, and all three brothers are having separate business. This is our settlement. Will this settlement agreement is valid to reclassify that person?
So as such, this settlement agreement should have some legal entity in nature. And post that, depending upon the facts of the case, as I earlier stated, facts of the case and the legal sanctity of the settlement agreement, we can look into whether that can be accepted or not.
Okay. Okay.
So I have a point here. the moment we say agreement between brothers, I mean, it's a very, very sensitive matter between families that you enter into an agreement. A cordial and an amicable settlement between two brothers well, then it will become very complicated. It may become very complicated the moment I tell my brother, okay, let's enter into an agreement. Agreement number one, would it mean going to the court, or only a agreement on a stamp paper would suffice? Chami, can you help me with this?
I agree, but now it will depend upon the two brothers between how they want to take ahead the things. In case they want to enter in the family settlement agreement, some settlement agreements, they will definitely do that.
Okay.
We have examples also in some of the cases that they have come up with the settlement agreements. In some cases, they do not aggregate. We do not want to get into some agreements or thing. In that cases, reclassifications will not be possible as such,
Right.
because the conditions of 10% and things will not be met with.
Okay. It means that there's a one query which has come that our company was promoted by 4 brothers. Now I of them is 80 and lives in the different state or out of India and is not involved in the company. In any way, can the brother be reclassified? It is a mutual and amicable thought, and we don't want to get into any sort of court matters signing any agreement.
Sir, again, the same thing applies. If there is no document proving separation, if the conditions are of the reclassification, maybe the brother being on the board or the shareholding of the brother is not met with, in such scenarios, it would be difficult to approve the application as such, because the law is clearly binding the conditions.
Okay, Charmi, very interesting point has come. Somebody is raising this, that they have an agreement long back, and because of that agreement they have done some transaction, like they are saying this in this agreement there are 7 companies, we are dividing 2 companies, 2 to each, and third company will go to the another brother, and that has happened. They have filed court case. So that agreement which is with the family, which is not in the court order, will it suffice if they can show the action?
So we will have to look into what the document says, and whether the document is whether it is a certified or something like that. So we'll have to look into the legality of the document as such, and the specific terms what have been agreed between in the agreement, which prove the reclassification or not, something of that sort has to be looked into as such. Okay.
Now, Mr. A, who does now there are some question on open offer, because you are taking control of the company. Mr. A, who does not hold any share at present in the company, purchased 2% share in the company either from market or from transfer from existing promoter, and he intends to classify himself as a promoter in the company, and whether he needs to give open offer under section as the SEBI SAST rules. Merely 2% holding also, and no change in management or control of the company. Whether the existing promoter will continue to remain promoter in the company, require open. I think this question which somebody is asking is very simple. I will just simplify. A person acquires equity share of a listed equity and become owner of, say, 0.05% on equity company. And after acquiring the share, he also want to include the promoter category. The point is, he is holding very minimal shares, but he wants to categorize himself as a promoter. Then do we need to make an open offer as per regulation 31(5) of LODR?
Sir, as such here, the 2 regulations together will have to be read with the open offer regulation, that is the takeover code, and the reclassification regulations, because there have been scenarios been described in the takeover code wherein the open offer is required to be met, and the condition that has been mentioned here in this regulation referring to the takeover code back again to make the open offer. So both the conditions together have the regulations together have to be read with, and then decided whether the open offer has to be made or not. Because again, the open offer 25%, 5%, everything has been classified in the takeover code as such, where the open offer is required.
But if somebody is saying I want to be classified as a promoter, it means he is acting as a control And if he's doing control, then number of shares is not an issue. He has to give open offer to have a control or including as a promoter in the company.
Then, sir, again, as there is a voluntary open offer, every concept is given in that takeover code. So optional things are also there in that code.
Okay. Okay.
So if this person doesn't want control and his holding is merely 2%, then probably it's not required to give an open offer but with 2% stake, if he wants control as well, then of course he will have to give an open.
Yeah, see, that's right. After reclassification of promoter to public, shareholding of the promoter and promoter group will be down. This is okay. We can reclassify promoter of a company planning to go public before it goes to public. Can we reclassify before going to the public? I think that is allowed.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Like many of all these new age companies have done the same.
Okay. Can a shareholder under public category having less than 25% can be reclassified as promoter at the request of such public shareholder without bringing open offer? I think the answer is you have to give an open offer if you want to classify it as a promoter, because as soon as you will promoter, you will have a control of the company. Otherwise, there is no way, and then the company should also treat them as a promoter. Any view in this, Anjali?
Right. Yes, sir. If you want to be classified as a promoter, then you will be from single control, you will be having joint control. You have to give the offer.
Okay. Sharmi, A is a listed company, B is a foreign holding of A company, and C is holding company of B. Of B mean foreign company's holding company is B. Due to merger of BC, now C will become part of the promoter group of company A. Will it fall under the inter-se transfer? As per my reading, it won't fall inter-se transfer of shares, as C is not part of the promoter group in SHA as on today. Kindly highlight the provision that will apply in this case. I think this is a multiple question and big question. We will give separate answer to you, sir. A promoter of listed company on getting his demat account frozen and claiming that he is not the promoter and wants his name to be removed from the list of promoters, holding more than 10% shareholding and pressing the company to do so. Also, he has not given SCST disclosure also. What should company do?
So does he mean that he is not the promoter, but though he has been classified as the promoter of the company and accordingly the holdings have been frozen? So in that case, he will have to get in touch with the company as in how is he being classified as the promoter, because the classification that has been done by the company is in the documents that they submit. Exchange will go by that classification as such, and the company will not in case anyway classify anybody as the promoter as such. So they'll have to get in touch with the companies.
Okay. Whether open offer is required for promoter reclassification?
No, sir.
Okay. If any person fall under the promoter group at the time of listing and then after he sold his all shares after 5 years of listing and do not hold any shares, still fall under promoter group and showing in quarterly filed shareholding patterns with nil holding, is still required to reclassified as public shareholder by filing an application, or it will be automatically reclassification after some time.
There is no automatic reclassification in this scenario. He will have to continue this person as the promoter and the promoter group, because just by the holding nil holding, he or she cannot be automatically reclassified to public category. There is the normal procedure that has been prescribed in case of reclassification have to be followed. Just that they might get an exemption from shareholder approval in case the holding is less than 1% or so. So accordingly, they can make an application and get it reclassified. But till then, they will have to be considered as the part of the promoter and promoter group.
Okay, one person is asking very small question that whenever the company need to provide complete board minutes or the extract of the board minutes of reclassification, because they are saying the entire board minutes is relevant to various other things.
No, sir, it is extract and the checklist also, the checklist that we have published on the website also clearly states that only the particular extract of the particular resolution is required.
Okay. can a company be without any promoter? Existing promoter sale, then go out to promoter classification, and large shareholder cannot afford open offer. So they are saying, can a company be without any promoter? Because the promoter has gone out, he has sold all the shares. So I think the promoter, even if he has sold the shares, he will be the promoter unless they are classified.
Reclassification as such is possible when post the reclassification company becomes a professionally managed company with no promoters.
Okay.
But
I would also want to add that it should not be that you have sold your shareholding, but you continue to remain the managing director of the company and being at a decision-making position, and then you say that I want to be reclassified. That is not possible.
Okay. Now somebody is giving his comment because of CSC listed, whether the emergence of online trading in India, SEBI has here directed many regional stock exchanges to be recognized. Almost all recognized stock exchange has closed down except Calcutta. Almost 3,000 companies are still at Calcutta, and many of these companies are listed nationwide exchange. How the company listed as CSC are facing approval hurdle from CSC. If they have to undergo any corporate action, they need to get acquisite approval from CSC, and they never impart or create lot of hurdles while approving the case. So what to do with the cases of CSC who is not making any validation? I think you can write to the SEBI, and the SEBI can take up this, and SEBI can take some action and instruct the Calcutta Stock Exchange. That is the only solution. No doubt it's a hurdle, and the stock exchange either should work or they should be closed down. That is the best way which SEBI should do. We will write to SEBI with your query. With regard to reclassification pursuant to takeover offer, it is necessary to specifically mention regarding reclassification, or it is okay if we mention that the object of the offer is to acquire shareholding, voting right, and to acquire control. So Charmi, they are asking, I should write in open offer that I will be the promoter and other promoter will be public, or if I'm just taking over the control, what will be the position of other promoter?
In case of open offer, they will have to specifically give the intent that the erstwhile promoters will get reclassified, because that is what the regulation is specifically stating. Because if that is not mentioned and the disclosure is not made properly with respect to reclassification, the shareholders as such will never come to know that the erstwhile promoter is going to get reclassified and the new promoter is going to enter. In that case, the exemption also provided under sub-regulation 10 will not be available. So that's proper, that disclosure needs to be given in the open offer document as such.
Okay, Anjali, LMN Limited, a promoter group company, holds merely 1.55% share, wherein my sister is a majority shareholder.
Okay.
Wants to be reclassified as public. She is not in any way involved in my company, and neither I am involved in her company. There is another promoter group company wherein she is a director and holds merely 7% holding. Can LMN Limited be reclassified? You can read.
Is the sister, it will depend, is the sister also a promoter group? Is she holding any shares in my company? As far as I understand from this query, she is not under holding, she per se is not holding any shares in the listed entity, but only through another company she is holding 7% stake. She should be allowed, this entity should be allowed to be reclassified. Maybe we'll have to make an application quickly, then only we'll get a better idea.
Okay, we will give this answer because this is a multiple questions and multiple facts. So you give answer directly to that participant.
Yeah.
Okay, Charmi, whether a person who was a listed company's promoter but took a company's exit two decades ago, much before introduction of Regulation 31A LODR, should still be treated as promoter?
Sir, took a complete, this is a different thing. Say, once he has been classified as a promoter or a promoter group entity of the company, he will remain to be the promoter or promoter group entity, though he is no way involved in the affairs of the company or having no shareholding in the company till whatever, maybe 2 decades. That's what has been given in this example. still he would be considered as a promoter. And by virtue of that, post that, once he gets reclassified, if an application has been made complying with the complete conditions of the regulation, post that only he can be considered as not a promoter of the company as such.
Okay, whether provision of reclassification would apply if the person is stated or fraudulently shown as a promoter? Like I am showing in my company you as a promoter fraudulently. So what will happen? And you are coming to me that reclassified I am not doing. So then you are going to the SEBI or stock exchange. What stock exchange will do?
Sir, in this case, we will have to get in touch with the company, because company as such will not classify anybody as the promoter, because there are repercussions on that also. Promoter has many things to bear with the actions that have been taken against the promoter by the SEBI and these things. And in case if it comes out to that the company has made a false disclosure as such, it will become a real inaccurate information, as you say, provided by the company, which will be a real big non-compliance for the company as such. So companies such would not do that, but in case it has been done, so we'll have to get a clarification from the company also, as in why is such person classified as the promoter. Just by the promoter claiming that I am not the promoter of the company shall not be done with.
Okay, if I requested the promoter that time, yeah.
Sorry to barge in. There is a real-time situation in this wherein the promoter sold his shares to somebody, but this transferee did not lodge the share certificates. I'm talking about the time when the shares were transferred in physical mode, but this transferee did not lodge the transfer deed with the company, as a result of which the old person's name continued to be the promoter in the promoter list of the company. And now when the company is not doing well or the demat accounts are being frozen, this person has again got to know that it is my shareholding which is the notices are coming in my name. Is there any alternative available to that person?
So way back in case of reclassification, that is prior to 2015, in case any reclassification would have been done, there would have been, apart from the share transfer, that the document that would have been there in place, there would be some notings done in the approvals from the shareholders or the board approvals. Something would have been done which have been there in the supporting of this person.
Okay.
Because just by transferring the share, this person would not have got reclassified as from a promoter to public entity.
Okay, right. And Charmi, now we have so many questions, so I'm starting rapid round. Rapid round means that we will not barge into other thing and we'll give answer, quick answer. Now, Charmi, the question which I've asked, if a company is not reclassifying a promoter as public shareholder despite of being request made in this regard, what is the alternative remedy? Because company is not doing anything.
So there have been procedures prescribed in LODR wherein within so many days they have to process the requests that have been made by the promoters. In case that is not done, we might, once the information is made available to the exchange may take up some actions against the company for seeking some clarifications and understanding the facts.
Okay.
I think in addition, as per the SOP circular, there is a fine of 5,000 per day if the company does not meet those timelines.
Okay. If Mr. B promoter who sold his all shares, but his brother of current promoter, Mr. A, who is the MD of the company holding more than 10% stake, how we can reclassify Mr. B as public shareholder? Now he's not holding. Yeah.
Here nothing will help because the regulation as such is clear.
Okay. So he will be there. You have to go to SEBI for exemption. Then I think that is the best way. Can promoter and public shareholder together bring open offer and collectively seek reclassification as promoter?
Yes, they can.
Yeah, I think this answer is yes. The company as X has been inadvertently historically showing some member who are indirectly controlling X in a public category. These members are shown in promoter group of X holding company. Is there any option available to X to show these members as promoter group without following the open offer route as per SEBI takeover? Mean they were the promoter, but they were showing in public, and now they want to correct it. What is the process?
They will be allowed to correct, but there would be some actions against the company in such case, because incorrect disclosure, false disclosures again is a not allowed as such, but LODR also prescribes.
I can give this information. I can give, but open offer is a costly affair.
Open offer will as such not be required. That's what I understand, because he is already the promoter of the company. It is just a matter of disclosure, the incorrect disclosure that the company has made.
Okay. We have a listed subsidiary company. The member of the promoter group company of holding company also holds shares in the said subsidiary company, but they are not part of the promoter group of subsidiary company.
Sorry.
Okay.
Question is not clear, sir.
Okay. As per the regulation, minutes of the board meeting have to be submitted to stock exchange, but there can be other. I think this answer we have given. Okay. That you can just give only those information which are required. Company A is required by company B. Promoter of company A holds more than 20% share in company B. Promoter is no way controlled and associated with the company B except for shareholding. They wish to reclassify. Please suggest what remedy is available. I think these types of.
Till the time shareholding is brought down to less than 10%, there is no way, no solution to this. The outgoing promoter has to have less than 10%.
Okay, there are 3 promoters and their group holds 2%, and individually they all does not hold 1% or more, and they are not related to each other as per the relative definition. In this situation, one of them want to reclassify. Shall it reclassify without the approval of shareholders by complying other procedure? Is it possible?
The outgoing promoter itself and the relatives are not holding more than 1%. In that case, it is okay. Matlab, the reclassification can be allowed without shareholders approval. The exemption is there.
Okay. Outgoing promoter has given personal guarantee for the company loan but will not hold any control. Will the application be rejected on the ground of personal guarantee?
This depends.
Okay. Personal guarantee, otherwise exchange will not be questioning. Honestly, I feel exchange per se will not be asking for whether you have given any personal guarantee or not, but it's a governance matter.
Okay. This question again, somebody has asked, how the reclassified promoter before going to public? I think before going to the public, if suppose there are 2 brothers and they are the promoter, and the one brother is coming out with the issue, another brother is not part of this. So they can classify them as a non-promoter by this agreement, and other promoter can sell the shares, or they can go to show it in the public category before going to the public. What is the view, Anjali?
So for companies which are professionally managed, say if we talk about Zomato or Paytm, wherein there have been multiple rounds of funding, as a result of which the main person who started the company, their shareholding has come down to as low as 10%. And these people do not hold the decision making directly. For them, it's an allowable situation. But then when the example that you gave, 2 brothers, one of them does not want to be classified as promoter group. That's a complicated situation, because then you're defying the definition which is given in the regulation.
Okay. Whether person acting in concert is considered in promoter and promoter group? If yes, how PIC can be reclassified to public?
As per one of the amendments which was made to the SAS regulations, PST were a part of the promoter group. Were made a part of the promoter group. If PSC is totally not related to the promoters or the relative, then he or she can file a reclassification.
Okay. Whether daughter can be promoter of her father and father-in-law company as well?
Yes, by virtue of both the relation. Chandni, you tell me. You clarify.
There's a one girl. She's a one daughter. She is the part of the father's company as a promoter by the relative, and then now she got married, so she is a part of the new family, and she will become the promoter of father-in-law company also. So the point is, both the places she can be, or she can reclassify from one place of father's company.
She can be there in both the places, but if she wants to get reclassified and the conditions are met as such, she can even do that. But she can be there in both the companies.
Okay. A promoter of a listed company who is a shareholder in a body corporate by limited hold 10%. I think this type of question I'm not asking because to tell the speaker immediately of various facts is not easily available. So we will give you this answer. We'll send you separately. Now, this answer we have given. One more. There is a company run by family member initially. How the promoter? This is also we have done in different manner. There are some legal point which people are asking. By virtue of definition of promoter group, my sister is falling in promoter group. She is not involved in her business, in my business in any way. She wants to get reclassified. How to do? Since as per law, immediate relative cannot be reclassified.
So there is, if the condition of 10% and other conditions provided are not met, then there is nothing that can be done as such. But if there is a leeway, whether the brother is holding less than 10%, then in that case, if the conditions allow, then reclassification can be allowed as such.
Here the sister is going to other family, then the reclassification can take place?
No, as such, no, sir. Because the promoter group definition itself includes siblings.
Okay. Achha, there is a husband and wife, both are promoter of a company, now they got a divorce.
So divorce, there is an exemption given from shareholder approval as such. But while going through the application, the conditions, the holdings of the children and everything also has to be taken into consideration. And then whether it can be decided whether the reclassification is possible or not as such.
Okay. Suppose I'm the very interesting question. Stock Exchange has given permission for the divorce. And then Stock Exchange seeing that person is, because popular figures, they are again meeting and they are enjoying and they are staying together. So Stock Exchange will take sumo to action.
Sir, as such, now it will depend again on the facts.
Okay. There is because I was just, there are so many people who have divorced that, but still they are staying together and they are, so is it possible that just for the sake of reclassification, they have done this and then they want to, okay. There is a single promoter in the company who does not wish to continue as promoter. He is proposing to reclassify himself into public category and is satisfying all the precondition of reclassification. Post his reclassification, there would be no promoter in the listed company in such reclassification possible. Means there is a one person who is a promoter. Now he wants to go out and that, and now there will be no promoter. So is it possible? Will you allow?
Yes, sir.
Permissible. Yeah.
Okay. I invested in a company as a strategic investor in a listed company pursuant to BIFR order, and my name was included in the promoter category. I am not in any way involved in the decision making of the company. Can I be reclassified? I mean, what happened? BIFR was saying bring out money. So when you are bringing out money, so I approached you. You are as a strategic investor. You have come and invested money. Now the company is out from the BIFR, and you as a shareholder are there. So you will become promoter because you are holding more than 10% share. So now I can go to the stock exchange and tell that because I came as a strategic investor, not the promoter, please reclassify me. Can the stock exchange allow?
Sir, as such, again, the application will have to go through the condition prescribed in the regulation as such. And if that is not met, still they want to get reclassified, certain exemptions in case they get it, then only it's possible. Otherwise, the conditions have to be followed as such.
Okay. The whether daughter can be promoter, this has in here in case of live in relation to can promoter. I think this question is not complete. So friends, now it is time to close. We have given answer, whatever we have received, common answer we have removed. And some of the answer, which were very big and they were on a very factual basis that A is the father of B and B is the father of C, C is this thing, and they are holding subsidiary company. These are the questions which in the webinar we can't give because the speaker will also have to understand, then they can give answer. They cannot give answer. They can give answer for a small yes and no or a small point, but they cannot give answer on factual basis. So my request is all these people, those who have a query, it is still not answered. please write to us. We will take help of the BSc and NSC, and we will write to you after understanding the full facts. And we will give reply. So you can write to us, Shivam at India CP, or the other things which is mentioned. And I'm assuring you, we will give answer. Or in case you require one-to-one discussion, you can call Anjali, and Anjali can give answer to your query. What we will do, all these query which we have received, all suggestion which we have received, we will compile it and send it to Stock Exchange as well as SEBI, that these are the points which people are facing in this law. And I'm sure the way people have interacted in this webinar and the questions they have sent before the during the webinar or before the webinar, I understand this is a very clear point that there are some issues, there are some confusion, there are some need to re-look into this. So we will compile it and send it to the regulator, and regulator will look into. As a ritual, we are taking the 1 minute time. Charmi, what is your view on this law? How this can be very effective, where people, genuine people out, and those who are not genuine, we cannot they cannot remove themselves from this reclassification process. And second is, the time has changed. The husband wife are not together. Divorce cases are going up. The brother sister is not together. Two brothers are not together. They are fighting. Everywhere it is happening. So the definition of relative and making them as a class, as a promoter, I think this is relook into immediately. And then there are so many complicated issues of the people are not the all powers of reclassification you have given to the company, and if company is not doing, what is the penalty? And the penalty should not be 5,000, it should be more. So people should realize that this is not the this is not, because 5,000 means 1,50,000 annually. It is 18 lakh rupees. So it means what happened? If they want to take advantage of other person's name and other person's of things and putting liability on him, so they can take this. So it should be in a hurdle if they do something. So what is your, Charmi, what is your view on the entire issue in 1 minute? So this law can be robust and effective, and it can help corporates.
So definitely there is some reworking required here. So whatever the suggestions and the questions that have come up over here, considering that what we'll also look into whatever we as an exchange as such we'll be able to do and take certain suggestions to SEBI. Definitely we'll do that, and whatever at our level it's possible for us to do something, we'll definitely do that in that manner.
Okay, Anjali.
I think one suggestion if we can give to the regulator, there should be some cutoff date on the basis of which the shareholding of the company should be determined, and that would be the sacrosanct holding on beyond which no changes. But because all the issues which have been mentioned, by mistake somebody shown in the promoter, by fraud somebody shown in the promoter, all those things to be cleared on a particular cutoff date, and beyond that, things to be taken forward on a clean slate.
Okay, and my suggestion which I have given, that SEBI realizing this is very old law, multiple changes have taken place, multiple interpretation are there, and multiple complications are there. And second is the socio-economic system is changing. That is the basic. SEBI should come out a scheme where they should give one-time permission to the companies that they can file with the detailed SOP which they will come out. I think this will be helpful. So thank you, Charmi. Thank you, Ashok in absence, and Anjali for giving answer and discussing all these points. We will try to, the effort is that by our webinar, we educate, we get the response from the public, and then we submit to the regulator so they can have a ready-made issues that public are facing. Public is facing this type of problem. So thank you very much, both of them, and Ashok also. Friends, as we are doing webinar every week, and the first Friday of the month is the recap of recent regulatory legal updates. So 7th October, 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, we are having program on company securities and insolvency law, recap of recent regulatory. And this month, we have received change in threshold limit of small company, NC amend CSR rule, director get 15 more days time to dim KYC without fees. In security law, stock exchange issue revised SOP in respect of draft schema amalgamation, which is very tough now. Circular of issue of listing of commercial paper listed at REIT and InvIT. SEBI lays guideline for preferential issue, instrumental placement for listed REIT and InvIT. So they are also various questions. Insolvency also we have so many questions related to the clause 26A amendment in 34B, and then resolution process for amendment and resolution process for corporate person, enable better participation of stakeholders. They are coming out liquidation process, insolvency resolution process. They have changed amendment in notification pertaining to application of fast track, and RBI allows insolvency professional entities to be appointed as a resolution professional for resolution of insolvency, which is a far-reaching impact will take place in insolvency law that we will discuss in the next week, Friday, 7 o'clock. Till then, so Friday 7 at 4 o'clock, we'll meet again with all these things. If you have any query related to these three things, you can send. This is our annual, this is our monthly efforts. That's last month of the first Friday of this month to the next first Friday of the next month, whatever new amendments have come, we want to discuss. And we want to tell, this is the amendment, what are the changes, and what will be the impact on this, and then where is the gap is there, where people are confused. So we will meet you again on 7th, 4 o'clock. Till then, thank you very much.
Thank you.